Don't forget to subscribe to Basement Tales. Just go on Apple, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts and hit that subscribe button. We release a podcast every Thursday. That way you'll be sure not to miss an episode. Welcome to Basement Tales with Sam Jackman, Charlie Einsman, Ed Grass, and Sandra Delancey. We have fun telling crazy but true stories about turning the worst possible property disasters into bags of money. Along the way, we'll pass along some important lessons to help you make cash on real estate. Sam and Charlie walked away from cubicle hell 25 years ago. Starting with no property, they created their own Clear Sky group of companies, sold hundreds of houses, bought dozens of rentals, and made millions in hard money loans. I'm Ed, a big firm litigator until muscular dystrophy made me find a hobby other than suing people. I miss it. Sandra's the normal person here with a real job plus some rentals. Her decades of friendship with the group, from office flunkies to property gurus, might help keep us all humble and focused on learning something. I wouldn't count on it. Charlie sent... Oh, did you hear, Charlie? We're getting that Carrington house finally.
Oh my, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. How are we getting it so fast? Is part of the tax lien process? I mean, why did that eviction take so fast?
Right, because you get, I didn't know this until the lady told me it, Jennifer, that in Maryland, when you get a tax lien, it comes already with the right of possession. So you don't have to establish possession.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, they figure they take months and months to do this. They'll give you a bonus.
This is beyond awesome.
That's the best news I've heard from a local government.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know any other I mean, I'm sure there are other jurisdictions that do it, but like DC doesn't do that. You gotta start from scratch once you get the property.
It doesn't entirely fit with our prior experience in PG County. If you remember, we got a house that was a tax lien purchase. We bought that. Remember that one, Charlie? And then...
Yeah, but that came with a minimum lawsuit, a small lawsuit.
Because the lawsuit was ongoing. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and this is a perfect tax lien thing. On the one hand, you get the possession. On the other hand, it's been months and months and months since the title was supposedly awarded to us, but to pay the taxes and to get them to issue the deed, I can't. It would make me upset if I look back how long that took. It should have taken 30 days.
Yeah, but now it's done. We're 30 days away.
Right. March.
All the sunk costs.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even that it was so costly. It was just sitting there. The actual tax incurred wasn't very much money. I think the total cost for that property with the taxes, it's under $50,000, even with
wonderful.
The holding stuff. And what do you think that thing's worth now up there? 340? Did you say?
Yeah,
sure.
My number's 340, but I haven't checked it in 2 months.
I won't be surprised if it's higher this spring in the entry marketplace.
Well, if everything stays the way it's been going. So this, I guess maybe we'll use some of this discussion, but that this is a tax lien in Prince George's County, Maryland, it's like a duplex, right? This house.
Semi-detached. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's a good sized property, and it's a very nice street. Everybody on the street's going to be happy. I'm sure this thing's going to get cleaned up and get a nice tenant. But I think the total. Yeah, I think the taxes was maybe $40,000 plus.
But have we ever done a tax lien certificate podcast? Well, why don't today be the day?
We've done it on and off. Yeah, we've talked about it as one way, like the hidden market, to try to find these properties, particularly now because foreclosures are so difficult. We could do a whole thing on it sometime. But you had sent around an email about something you wanted to talk about, but I wasn't sure what you meant.
We could even do this at a later date and talk about this particular property and our stories with this property. We've got 3 or 4 stories on this property already.
Well, all right. So let me do the background, then you can do the story of what happened after the fact.
I still don't forget Dylan car surfing to this day. And then he got me to go with him in car surf.
We should take it. Should be able to post a picture of that.
Of car surfing, yeah.
I don't think Sam. Sam. Did you take any pictures of us car surfing?
Yeah, I have a couple shots.
Okay, so let's start. Let's just talk about this property.
Which we have the background. All right, so I'll do the quick, boring legal thing. But we've talked about tax liens before in the podcast, so I'll keep that simple. And this is where, if somebody doesn't pay taxes on their house, in a lot of jurisdictions, the government will place a lien on the house that they can then sell, and then private investors like us come along and bid for those tax liens and buy them through an interesting process. And then the purchaser of the tax lien can foreclose on the house. Now, of course, the homeowner can pay their taxes, can redeem the tax lien, and the government's happy, they get their taxes, and the homeowner goes on about their business. But in a certain small percentage of these, like this property we're talking about in Capitol Heights, Maryland, the taxes are never paid. They're never paid by the owner or a bank or anybody else. And probably somewhere between 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 of these tax liens, this happens. We're pretty good at targeting them, so we're down to maybe 1 in 20 of the ones that we get don't redeem by the person. So then the investor ends up paying the taxes, and in return they get the property. So this particular property, I think the back taxes were maybe about $40,000 on a property we think after it's fixed up, for round numbers, let's say it's $350,000. So obviously if somebody was around and owned this property, they'd be kind of crazy not to pay off the taxes, even if they had to sell the property. But there's all sorts of reasons people can't do that. In this case, the property was in some kind of trust, and the individual died, I believe, without any heirs. And so there was no bank, there was no mortgage, there was no owner, there was no whatever. The property was just sitting there, and that's how we ended up getting this for $40,000. Well, once you finally get the property, then you got to do something with it, and that's where Sam can probably pick up the story. It's not like you get the deed to this thing and you can just show up and go in and this is your house.
There's a little picture
for our YouTube people. That's a picture from the backyard.
Whoa! Wait a minute. No. That's a picture from one of us car surfers.
Yeah.
Because we're standing on top of the car. Sam, did I take that picture or did Dylan take it? Because you certainly didn't go car surfing.
No, I don't. I'm out of the surfing business.
And you can see if you're on our YouTube channel, and somehow we'll put up the picture. Otherwise, the thing in the back is covered with weeds, but it's actually in good condition. The property overall, at least from the outside, you can see some of the sidings falling down under the eaves and the gutters fall off. And it had a few extra cars.
So there you go. That's yours. Oh, that's yours truly.
That's
you. Guys. No, listeners, you've got to watch this. You've got to listen to this podcast on YouTube. You have to. Sam, you took that picture?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. My.
What were you standing on, Sam, to take?
Or maybe my son Dylan might have taken that picture.
Oh,
not sure.
You can get a flavor for this. Okay, so
yeah, you see a couple cars. There's a lot more of them out there. There were a lot of cars.
Well, there's 2 cars in this picture, but there were a total of 5 cars, and there's a bunch of overgrowth. And then here's the other picture. So you could kind of see in this picture, you could see 3 cars, of which one of the cars is actually covered with the growth of the bushes.
Yeah, is that one in the back there? Something's growing on the windshield?
Yeah. The plants are growing on the windshield and around the windshield. That happened to be a cat. The car I'm standing on, believe it or not, is a Lexus. And then there was a van, and there was a truck, and then there was a 5th car. So just to be fools, myself and Dylan, we actually went car surfing. And you can see it was during the summer. So the timeline of this house was that we bought the liens, like I think in November or December of 2020. Was it 2020 or 2019?
No, it would be 2020. They're fairly fast in PG for this.
Yeah, so we bought the liens in December of 2020, and the pictures that Sam is doing is around.
Oh, I can tell you when they are. So sorry. There's September 3rd.
Yeah, September 3rd. Right. So we got it December of 2020, the actual lien. And then we had ownership of the house in September 2021, correct?
Right. So that goes fairly quick up there. DC, for example, is you have to wait a certain number of months till you sue, but then it's like a minimum of a year before before the court can actually grant ownership. So up there, even though COVID was still going on, it moved fairly quickly, and you can see why from the picture that Sam had put up. This thing is overgrown. I mean, it's a lovely community, perfectly nice entry level community, and you've got this thing with what was it, 5 cars, overgrown weeds, taxes not being paid to the jurisdiction, which has to deal with all this stuff, and so fairly quickly you end up getting the property, and at the point that you guys were off there car surfing.
Car surfing.
Car surfing is a lot different.
Car surfing extraordinary.
Someone needs to cut the grass.
Yeah,
I don't
somebody.
even think that's not even grass. I think that's ivy. I don't know what the heck that is, but we were lucky to not get poison ivy that day. And so that was a day in mid-September, and it was still a pretty warm day. As you could tell, I was wearing shorts and short sleeve shirt. But it's unfortunate that we don't have a picture of the front door, because the front door had at least, my guess is 4 weeks worth of mail.
Oh, let's look a little more carefully.
Piled in between the screen.
Oh, there were some other photos.
Nobody had been there for at least 4 weeks. So as the story goes, we deemed the property, us experienced car surfers, being that those that we deemed the property as being vacant.
Surf's up.
Yeah, surf's up. You've got 5 cars that hadn't been moved, as represented by the plants growing on and around the cars. The front door had at least 4 or 5 weeks of mail just piled up. So we said it was vacant. All right. So as smart guys that we are, we went ahead and told our contractors that, hey, this property is vacant. Why don't you go there and do a trash out? So then about a week or two later, our contractors show up to do a trash out, but we were very surprised that there was actually somebody in the house. And so Sam got a phone call from our illustrious contractors saying that there was somebody in the house and we had to tell them to stand down.
Yeah. Well, and to talk about surprise, I think the person who was living there was surprised. I guess the old term is squatter. They somehow were squat. Although for all we know, they somehow knew the original owner. We don't really know anything about the person that was in there, but I wish I was there to see that greeting. Well, thankfully,
I don't even know how the greeting went. I mean, Sam, do you remember that?
Well, they sent a small guy in through a window, and then he encountered this person, and the person unfortunately was not like armed.
Right. Yes.
So yeah. So it was something else.
Wait a minute. How? Oh, he went in through one of the front windows, because he certainly didn't go in through.
Here we have the front door with the mail on.
Those cars were in the way. The 5 cars.
See the mail?
Huh?
See my man here. He's in front of the mail. He's in front of weeks of mail at that same. That's the front door of it.
Right, day. But what window did these guys break in? Because
they sent it. One of them was open a little bit. I think probably this one you see right over your head in this picture. And this guy's
no short guys getting in that window.
Well, they put a skinny guy in. They said. I think they might have used a ladder.
The skinny guy stood on.
They sent a skinny guy. No, they put a ladder. They're like a regular contractor. They brought a ladder.
And talking about the legal thing for all you people out there who want to do things legally, the funny thing is, even though by this point we had the deed, you can't just go into a house if somebody appears to be living there. You have to get legal possession and then get the sheriff to evict somebody. So here Sam has put up on our YouTube channel that the cars had various signs in them. So there's another interesting. We own this property. We've got the deed. there's like 5 cars on our property. What do you do with that? Can
Well,
we
I'll
just
tell you what we do with it. You want to know what we do with it?
drive
Can
a
I say what
Lexus?
we do with it on this podcast? Okay.
No.
So the cars, even though I guess we'll technically own them if we do the right things to the DMV within 4 to 6 months, say they're abandoned and we get title of the cars, we could do that. But what
Not
we
easily.
do-
Not in Maryland, I believe. Maybe one of our listeners will know because this is not all that common. I think in Virginia you can do that. So if we had gotten this property in Virginia and there's a car sitting on the property, I think there's a process where you can notify the police and they put out there's an abandoned car and then you can get title. In Maryland, I think the only thing you can do is basically notify the cops and then they take it and sell it.
Yep, that's probably the thing to do.
Yeah.
However, another option, there's another option that might happen. And the cars might find themselves parked on the side of the road with expired tags. And then there might be a company that will come by and pick up the car and squish it into a cubed metal block.
Right.
And then they might sell the metal block to the scrapyard and get, I don't know, $1,000 for the metal cube. That might happen, but I don't know anything about it.
That's funny. Well, and right now, Sam has up the sign that was in the vehicle. The vehicle registration is under review with the Internal Revenue Service, and that's underlined, Internal Revenue Service, and will be updated and renewed. And now Sam switched to a picture of coffee cups and papers and stuff.
And it's posted right above that on the window.
I'm sure the IRS is going to come by there and get one of those cars. That's very high up on their priority chain.
That's who signed that? M.
Yeah.
That's signed by M. That's
Yeah.
right out of James Bond. If you see that signature. Right.
Oh, yeah,
Who
M.
signed that?
M.
Who signed that one?
Country.
Well, and the last I checked, and I guess I am a lawyer in this sense, I don't think vehicle registration is run by the Internal Revenue Service.
M.
I believe, well, M thought so, but I believe maybe that's why it wasn't registered. The IRS is like, what? We don't do registrations. You go to your local DMV in that state, last I heard. But
So far, we got the property, and we've told the story up to we did the car surfing and checked it. And then what happened? How do we get possession of this? How can we ever get out of this endless loop?
right. So in this jurisdiction, when you get the deed through the tax sale, the court says, okay, you did all the things you needed to do to notify people. They didn't pay the taxes. Here's your deed. You actually get legal possession. So in most places that we're used to, if you're trying to get a hold of a property for whatever reason, even your own property that you've rented out, you don't have the right to possession, or at least you have to establish it by evicting somebody, right? So we have probably plenty of listeners who rent out a property. Unfortunately, somebody doesn't pay the rent. They don't leave voluntarily. You can't just show up and go in. For example, you can't put up a ladder and have somebody climb in their window. Now, we didn't realize the place was occupied.
Yeah, you can't have it. You can't have a short guy breaking in through a window. That's probably
Right. Even though it's your property. Now, in our
And he
defense,
fits. He fits in the window. I'm not sure if it's breaking. It's just
that's okay. Yeah. Well, in our
Bearing, not
defense,
breaking.
we had no idea that there was anybody in there, right? So, and that's fine. If you own a property, you think the person's left. There's, process. I don't want to give legal advice, but it would be understandable. You'd go see what's going on in your property to turn it over. But when you know that somebody's in, for example, you have a small guy go in through a window and they see somebody living there, you have to immediately get the F out, I believe would be the legal term, and go to court.
Yeah.
And even though we had legal possession, we had to go and file an eviction. Now, this person, could have said they had a lease. Who knows what they might say, but you have to do a whole process with a lawyer to put up different notices and send them different places. And in this case, because of COVID, it's taken a bit of time, but the sheriff now has set up a date that, and the sheriff then posts notice where the sheriff is going to show up and in the classic eviction scenario, bang on the door, see if the person answers. If there's somebody there, they're going to order them out. They'll arrest them if they don't leave. or more likely that nobody's there, our person will drill out the lock and the sheriff will go in and search the property to see if anybody's in there. Which I was talking about my wife with my wife about this today. That's pretty scary. I mean, talk about law enforcement. You're a sheriff or a couple law enforcement people have to go into a house where somebody could be very unhappy for you to be
Well,
there. Have,
well, no, that's not funny, but it is funny. My friend is a retired Fairfax County sheriff, and he was telling me the two scariest things for those guys to do. Number one is a domestic case, and number two is an eviction. Those two things, they're on their P's and Q's, and they are absolutely on red alert when they go through those kinds of things.
right.
Yep. Yep. Marital, anything dealing with marital and anything dealing with evictions. They are, man, they're on red alert and it's scary. Now, in our case, before Mr. Short Guy got in through that window and found that we had an occupant, and oh, by the way, this happened 6 months ago, and we didn't even have to file a case, right? We just had to get on the sheriff's schedule. We were anticipating the vacant property because, us illustrious car surfers were smart enough, so we thought, to deem the property vacant. So we thought Mr. Short Guy was just going to go in there, unlock the front door. We were going to clean the house out, and we were going to start our renovation like that Monday. So we were expecting us to have a clean out. We had the crews ready to start renovation. But lo and behold, this put us back 6 months, and all we had to do is schedule the sheriff. So it still took 6 months for us to hopefully get the possession. And by the time the possession date is set, I think it's going to be month 7.
Yeah, it's and what's crazy, the thing that irritates me is that you have to pay the taxes. So you own the house, there's somebody who literally just is squatting there, what legally they call a tenant by sufferance, which I think is a hilarious. You're suffering this person to be there. You have a tenant by sufferance, and you're paying the taxes, and you have responsibility and get fined for the front yard looking like that with weeds overgrowing, and yet you have to wait. So it's one of these. This is one of these risks of buying properties at foreclosure, or in this case through a tax sale. People think, oh, well, they don't price in these problems. It is cost some money to wait. Now, fortunately, with tax liens, this property was so inexpensive, relatively speaking, that the extra few $1,000s and pain in the neck is not so bad. But it's still a little bit irritating. And of course, hopefully everything goes to plan. The sheriff shows up, and hopefully this person has left, and there's no confrontation. And that's that. I guess
most likely.
most likely that's typically
Yeah.
the case. Yeah.
Yeah, but remember though, in our case, for the listeners, is that there are basically two types of local tax jurisdictions, right? The first ones being primarily in Maryland, in our area, DC. They will issue the tax lien certificates, and then we can go and buy them. Virginia is a totally different animal in that they don't issue tax lien certificates. What they do, and it's all county specific, once the property is delinquent on taxes for a certain amount of years, they say, heck with the tax lien certificates. They go ahead and auction off the property. And so when they auction off the property, the highest bidder gets the property, and it usually happens at the local courthouse steps, and it's usually once a year. But they'll sell the property, and they'll collect like 5, 6, 7 years of delinquent taxes, and then and that's part of the proceeds of what the buyer pays. And so it's a little different in Virginia. They don't issue tax lien certificates; they actually sell the entire property.
I know Maine's like that because I have a place up in Maine. And it's interesting. I was looking at Fairfax County because I was curious about that. Is that, was tax lien something that we could do in Fairfax County? And A, as you said, you can't. That's not how they do it. But B, they didn't seem to have a lot of properties with back taxes. Maybe I was missing something there. Is that your sense, Charlie?
You're not missing anything. As a matter of fact, I'm on that, I think it's statevatax.com list for the entire state of Virginia. And the only things that come up in Prince William, Fairfax, Loudoun, Arlington, Alexandria City are the delinquent taxes on odd lots. right? These lots that are usually either unbuildable for whatever reason, maybe because it's too small and the property owner hasn't paid their back taxes, but it's usually these really odd pieces of real estate that don't make any sense to the normal home buyer. And so I don't see too many of them. And then once they do come and it is a property that might be, you might want to buy, usually what happens is the taxes get redeemed and they move on and cancel the sale.
Right. Well, and whereas Prince George's County, we know, D.C., Baltimore, we haven't done anything, but we know about. There are a lot of properties with back taxes that end up having these tax liens sold. And as we said, most of them end up getting paid off anyway. But I don't know what's a superior method to deal with it. I mean, I'm sympathetic. The jurisdictions have to collect the taxes, and of course, all of us who are paying taxes on our property don't want to, effectively pay for people not to pay their taxes on their properties.
Yeah, but if you own tell them that if you own the tax lien certificates in these various jurisdictions, why don't you tell the listeners what the booby prize is?
Yeah, right. That's my phrase for that is so the jurisdiction, essentially you pay the taxes to the jurisdiction and then you get the tax lien if the property gets redeemed. So if you get the property, that works out well. We've talked about that scenario here where we're getting property that probably need $100,000 in work, let's say, costs $50,000 to get. So maybe it's $150,000 for a $350,000 house. That's a pretty good result. Now, don't forget, there's a lot of work that's gone into that you would view as an expense as well. It's not like it takes 5 minutes to do this stuff and find these properties. But let's say you buy 50 tax liens. We've been talking about the one where the taxes never get paid off. What happens to the other 49? They pay off the taxes. Well, obviously, we get the money back that we put in as to pay the jurisdiction the taxes. So let's say there was $10,000 in back taxes. We pay the jurisdiction $10,000. The homeowner actually pays back. We got our $10,000 back. But the booby prize, getting back to Charlie's point, is the interest. So most of the jurisdictions, like D.C., charges 18% interest to the homeowner or whoever, the bank, whoever hasn't paid the back taxes. And then the investor who bought the tax lien gets that. So the booby prize is you've held on to this for a while. Maybe you've even had a lawyer file suit. Let's say it's, again, $10,000 in taxes, but it takes a year. You get $1,800 plus $10,000. And, oh, by the way, as Charlie would say, the lawyer fees also have to be paid by the delinquent taxpayer.
And the title search fees.
So they have to pay the $10,000 in back taxes. In that year, it's another year, so they have to pay $1,800 in interest. They've got to pay maybe $1,500 for your attorney. They've got to pay $500 for your survey cost. So you end up effectively your cost as the tax lien purchaser. The booby prize is you get all your money back with interest.
A lot of stuff on this show today. Car surfing, booby prizes.
Yeah.
Squisher, small guys in the window. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Overgrown yards.
Yeah, and the one last question is, what does anybody know what the Baltimore City booby prize is?
I think it's getting the property in some of those.
That could be the ultimate. That might be, I don't know which for that. But it's 1.75% a month. So if you multiply that by 12, Baltimore City pays out a 21% return on the tax lien certificate.
Wow, they could be hard money lenders at those kind of rates.
Yeah, well, and yeah, meanwhile, even with interest rates going up, that's still a pretty darn good interest rate to get. But actually, I was joking about getting the property being the downside. That is actually the primary risk of this. So let's say in this case, we had put this $40,000 into this property, and it turned out either it's burned down or it's, I don't know, there could be all sorts of problems with the property. Or Charlie talked about land that can't be built on. So maybe you've paid $50,000 to buy this tax lien, and you get the property, but it's not worth $50,000. It's worth $20,000, or it's worth zero because it's an unbuildable lot, or whatever or it takes you 3 years of fighting and with squatters or whatever. So there can be, that's where you actually lose the money. In addition to having spent the time and effort, which you could be doing other things like napping or doing other jobs or whatever.
Listening to this podcast.
There you go.
Right. So,
well, we'll have to do more pictures of this property at the time of the eviction. Follow up a little bit.
That's right. We'll have to post those in the right place to see, because it's a mystery to us, right? What's fascinating about this, again, with a foreclosure, although Charlie's pretty good at looking in windows and things, but we really don't have much idea of the condition of this property. Literally anything could be going. It could be anything from actually reasonably well maintained by somebody who'd been living there to, methamphetamine lab or.
I think it leans meth.
What's that?
I think it leans in the meth direction
as well. Yeah, you have a clue because you sent somebody in. They could comment.
Yeah.
And so usually when you're evaluating these, you sort of just assume that you're going to have to gut this thing down to the studs or the drywall, maybe, if things go well. But you might have mold in the basement. You probably do. You have all sorts of problems that you're going to have to deal with. But again, a pretty, $100,000 to fix up this property is it's a lot of money. You can do a really nice property at the end of that. So you just have to get it at a cheap enough price point to make it work.
Yeah, and we know it's a 3-level property. It's 1,160 square feet over a below grade of 560. We're going into it assuming it needs a full gut, and we've done so many of these that anywhere between $90,000 to $110,000 is what it's going to cost us to renovate it. Right? It's going to get us a brand new house. It's going to get us probably new windows, maybe a new roof, a new air conditioning, new hot water heater, plus carpet paint, kitchens, baths. I mean, it's going to cost us between $90,000 to $110,000. So we know what this thing kind of costs. Now, where we might be mildly surprised is if this house that we think needs a full renovation maybe has some good qualities to it, but I don't think we're counting on that.
No, that's usually you're happily surprised.
Yeah. Especially, yeah. So we think we pretty much are sure it's going to need a total gut. So that our numbers are close.
Well, and the gratifying part of this, honestly, I think anyway, is making money clearly, but also when this thing is gutted and fixed up, it's going to be a gorgeous property. It's going to be basically brand new, and it'll be an asset to the community. It's going to look nice from outside. There'll be no more cars to kart surf on or weed gardens or whatever it is growing back there. And somebody's going to get inside. It's going to be a gorgeous new appliances, new everything. So, in that sense, it's a happy story. Now, in this case, I guess it was an older person, I suppose, who passed away. We don't even really know. That side of it's not great. But, and I guess Sam's going to be the guy. Sam tends to fix these suckers up. So, not personally, but you're going to have to deal with all the headaches, I guess.
I'll be in there taking a look at it.
Well, no, I think
30 days.
I think Sam's going to do the poison ivy landscaping in the back there.
And the clean out. I'm going to do the poison ivy cleanup and the interior clean out. And the rest I'll leave to Charlie.
Well, when you were but a young property flipper, what would you have done a lot of that stuff? Well, obviously you weren't doing carpentry work, but what would you do with the trash outs? Were you more hands-on than you are now?
No, same. We did a lot of volume then, so we had a lot of people running around. Yeah,
even pretty.
So we always had a lot of helpers.
But that's it. That's a yes and no. So I have a guy. We all have our guys. He's a administrator at a local high school, and I actually coached high school basketball with him. And so whenever we would get a house that was loaded, I would just basically call him up, send him through there, and let him just cherry pick whatever he wanted just to make it easier for our trash out. And so one of the things he liked, obviously he liked some of the furniture, but he liked the sheds. He liked the tools. He liked the rakes and the shovels and all that kind of stuff. And he would come through there and sort of go there and pick out. And then we would send Mauricio's guys, which is one of our contractors, sent his guys through there afterwards, and then they would pick out the rest of the stuff that they wanted for themselves. And then Wilfredo and Carlos would go through there. They worked directly for us. So we
But
had
if there was ever money or guns found, we never did hear about it.
Right. Right. However, that's not true. In one of the houses, I forget which house it was, there was an 800-pound gun safe with guns in there that my high school teacher friend went through there and got that gun safe. I don't remember exactly what was in there, but
did he report guns found in it?
No, of course not. No. These guys didn't find anything, Sam. They didn't find one valuable thing. They've never reported back to us on one valuable thing.
You've never a valuable thing.
Yeah.
You want to get rid. It's always you want to get rid of the playground. It's never you want to get rid of the bag of coins I found.
Right.
Yeah.
We've never heard of anything valuable being taken.
No.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question, actually. If a flipper, because I can't think of when you guys have had this, but there must be guns in these properties. This is America. So what do you do if there's abandoned guns? There's a lot of different abandoned property. I talked a little bit about these abandoned cars. Other than the fun of surfing, we talked about that. But, and most of it, like on this, once this eviction happens, the sheriff's going to just basically have us put everything outside because if the person owns anything, they can take it, but then we can throw it out. But is there anything what do you do if there are guns? Does that have to be reported to the authorities, or what happens with that?
That's a great question. It's probably varies by state.
Right.
I'm not so sure. I think the answer
I can tell you is they always disappear. They're vanishing.
The answer is yes, because remember, the authorities that handle this is the federal authorities, right? Your ATF. So you've got to make a report into the ATF. You're supposed to. Now, of course, on our side, they
all disappear.
They all just disappear.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, in all seriousness, there are these trash out companies, and you hire somebody to go and trash the stuff out. Presumably, they're going to do whatever they're supposed to do. The reality is things may disappear, but it's not, in your case, it's not worth spending the time to go through on the chance that there's some valuable thing buried in the trash somewhere. I mean, literally, when we say buried in the trash, some of these houses are full to, you can't walk through them with stuff. And there might be something in there worthwhile, but it's not worth your time to do it.
Right. And it's just like you said, I mean, these listeners are probably listening and saying, what the heck is wrong with you guys? You guys have 5 cars in the driveway, and you're not even willing to spend the time to get the cars reported, retitled, so you can resell them for whatever the heck. It's not even worth our time to even do that. We would rather,
because this is a lot of work to figure out how, like, a car title.
We don't have time for that. Nor to keep track of it, nor to do this, nor to do that. It's not worth our time. Just like you said, the junk and the guns and this and that. I mean, certainly, I guess we could have gone through these houses and picked out some valuable things and made an extra couple grand. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's not worth 1 second of our time just to go through all that stuff.
Yeah. So you got to do and it's a good thought generally. You have to do what's efficient, right? If you're able to get a house like this is where the value is. But there's for somebody who has time to do it, to go through and look, maybe they could find something or resell some of the property or whatever, the furniture or whatever it is. There's all different pieces of this stuff, but I get it's like those storage wars things. I guess some people might be curious to see what's inside the house and do something with it, but for your purposes, not so much. It's just a hassle is what it is. It's a 99% of trash you got to get out of there to fix up the property.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
99.9.
Yeah, and again, back to that final story on the teacher, who's and I'll even give his initials. His initials are AG for anybody who knows him. And he coached at Garfield basketball. Okay, so what he would do is he would take remember, he had his eye set on certain things, and what he would do is he would take these things out of the house and then bring them down to somewhere where his dad would sell them at a flea market. So he was flea marketing these things because he knew that these were quick sells and high dollar items that people would pick up right away. And so he had no problem getting rid of it. And I don't know how much money he made off of it, but he made some money, and, more power to him.
Yeah, I guess when your cost is zero, there's a good chance of an
Yeah.
upside, other than, of course, your time and
Yep.
moving stuff
Yeah.
around. But yeah, it's a good way to make a few bucks.
And that's a family hobby. And so he gets to spend time with his dad, and they have some good father-son bonding time at the flea market, selling their wares and making, lunch money or dinner money. Who the hell knows?
There
Interesting.
you go. Well, that's tax liens in a nutshell.
That's the reality of it. That's for sure. It's a real tax lien with a real scenario of car surfing and small people going through windows and
Yeah.
sheriffs and
And
hopefully
squatters.
and squatters and hopefully an empty house getting renovated. And that's the other upside is a contractor is going to make some good money fixing this up, and
Yep.
the world will keep spinning around.
That's it.
Well, thanks. If you liked what you heard, like us, subscribe, and look for us in the coming weeks on the next Basement Tales.
And please send us emails on your stories. Not that
Tell us
we'll
your
ever,
stories, ask us your questions.
yeah, not that we'll ever run out of stories, but we could always use some listener stories as well.
And your story at basementtales.com.
2 T's.